Hello everybody, Ghostblade 1062 here with another locomotive review. Today we will be reviewing the Roco 60th Anniversary Locomotive, this being a Austrian Federal Railroad Class 1116 in its unique 60th anniversary scheme. And now, let's move on to the unboxing. Alright, taking our first look at the box, we have this outer sleeve on the box with this high-tech circuitry looking background with the Roco logo on the bottom left here and a timestamp for Roco in the top right here. On the bottom we see that it's an electric locomotive of class 1116, road number 1116-199-1 of the Austrian Federal Railroad. On the top of the box, we have a picture of the locomotive, as well as the Roco logo. And on the back, we have a product barcode, age restriction, and QR code. And then on the left side, we have the product ID number, this being 70485. It is an Austrian Federal Railroad locomotive in HO scale. And again, the road number is 1116-199-1, the 60-year Roco scheme. It is a DC locomotive. It is a DC, and it is capable of taking a Plux 22 decoder, as it is a DCC ready locomotive. And then we have a line drawing of the locomotive here and the product barcode. And now, sliding off the outer sleeve, we have our typical dark blue and gray Roco box, which, opening it up, first of all, we have our instruction booklet, which contains everything from assembly, decoder interface, and care instructions. And pulling off the top foam, we also have included this bag of extra detail parts, which includes things like windshield wipers, snow plows, brake lines, coupling hooks, all included. And now, pulling the locomotive out, and here we have the locomotive. And next, we will move on to the detail overview section of the video. Alright, time to take a closer look at the locomotive. Starting at the head end of the locomotive, Underneath here we have our snowplow, above which we have our buffer beam with the rectangular buffers, which are more common on modern era locomotives. We do also have in behind here our brake lines and coupling hook already attached to the body. And just above that, just above the right buffer here, we have the Siemens logo, which is the manufacturer of the prototype locomotive. Then in between here, between the headlights, we have the Roco logo with the 60-year timestamp and the time frame, the 1960 to 2020. Just above that, we see several slots for where additional detail parts can be fitted, such as the windshield wipers. And looking through the window, we can see that we have some interior cab detailing. And above the window, we have the Austrian Federal Railroad reporting marks, as well as a partial road number, being the 1116199. And we also see the grab irons on either side of the headlights here, along with a step up on either side as well. Now, moving on to the side, we have our see-through window, which again we can take another look into the cab through. We have our various warning labels along the side, the locomotive length. We have the Austrian Federal Railroad reporting marks again. The paint job is very intricate on this locomotive, with all the circuitry that's done on it being really well done. Though it does have a really plasticky look to it, with too much of a shine. We also have our vents here for internal cooling, which can also be seen on the rear end here. We have our emergency accesses. On the side of the on either side of the door, we have our separately fitted metal grab irons, and we have our separately painted door handles, with the steps going up right below that. The trucks are nicely detailed with a nice suspension detailing here, as well as the nice brake cylinder detailing on the axles, which can also be seen on the rear truck of the locomotive. Moving on to the rear of the locomotive, we again have the snowplow, we have our rectangular buffers, the Siemens logo. We have the Roco International 60th Anniversary sign on the back, here different from the front. And on the above the windshield, we again have the road name and road number. And we can see the interior cab detailing as well. And again, we have the slots for the separately fitted detail parts here, as well as the grab irons on either side. And the paint job on this side of the locomotive is actually different from... So, depending on which way you're running, you actually get two separate appearances from this locomotive. This side having the big Roco logo coming from the rear of the locomotive towards the front, with the 60th anniversary decaling towards the front of the locomotive here. Here we also see the full road 12-digit road number being 91811116-199-1. And again, we have our separately fitted grab irons on either side of the door with our separately painted door handles. We have our length and locomotive length, our warning labels along the side here, the nice truck detailing as well. Looking at the locomotive from underneath, we do have these cylinders here on either side of the centerpiece of the locomotive, and we also can see into a bit of the mechanism. We can see the flywheels on either side of the locomotive, as well as on either end we have the NEM shafts, which currently have the standard Roco couplings in them, and we can see how those move. And here on the other end, we have the same thing. Now looking at the top of the locomotive, we have two vents here for releasing hot air. We also have our main power line running across the roof going into the locomotive, as well as our capacitors. And we have our pantographs at either end, which are made out of metal and can be manually raised and lowered, but they are sitting quite tightly, so I will not be doing that, as I do not want to risk damaging them, as they are quite delicate. And next, we will move on to the rip track segment of the video. Alright, time for the rip track segment. To start with, we are going to check the wheel gauge with the NMRA standards gauge. Starting on the lead truck, axle 1 is in gauge, and axle 2 is also engaged but tight. Now for the rear truck, axle 1 is engaged, and axle 2 is actually not engaged, it's too tight. And the axle that's not engaged also is the one with the traction tires. Unfortunately, this is not something I can fix at this time, as I do not currently possess the expertise to fix axles. And now, but to move on, we will now swap the couplers to KD number 19s. That's coupler number 1 out. And the new coupler in. Now for the rear end of the locomotive. Coupler out. And new coupler in. And now to verify that they are at proper height. Right, the front coupler is good. Now onto the rear coupler. And it is actually sitting slightly high, but not enough to impede operations. So now I will take the locomotive over to the track for some test running. Alright, I have the locomotive on the track now. Now I'm gonna start giving it some power. And we can see the headlights turning on as well. The motor is kicking in at about 20% power, with movement starting at 25%. The rear light's functioning as well. Alright everybody, this concludes my review of the Roco Class 1116 of the Austrian Federal Railroad in the Roco 60th Anniversary Fantasy Scheme. The model in terms of running is running very smoothly. On the DC power pack that I'm using, it started moving at about 25% power, with the motor actually starting to kick in at 20% power. But once running, the motor is completely quiet, and it is running nice and smoothly right from the get-go. In the future, I do hope to upgrade this locomotive to DCC and sound as well, but that is something for another time. The paint job, while having a really plasticky look, is very well done. I find the circuitry detailing of the paint job is very, very well done. And all in all, a beautiful locomotive. I've had no issues with running it, and overall a good addition to the collection. That being said, if you enjoyed the video, leave a like or a comment, and subscribe for more model railroad content. Have a great day, everybody!